I'm Dr. Page. Welcome back to Life's About Living. I'm the best guy to see on the worst day of your life. And I have with me Dr. Sal. We've had Dr. Sal on some other episodes. He has been a pharmacologist and a pharmacist for 40 years. And after talking to Dr. Sal, I found out something very interesting about him. I trained down in Houston with Dr. Debakey and Dr. Cooley and all those guys. And we always use this thing called cardioplegia. It was the solution with ice that we put in around the heart to stop the heart so that we could sew the blood vessels on the heart to do a heart bypass. And Dr. Sal, interestingly, is one of the guys who helped formulate cardioplegia. So he's contributed a lot. And Dr. Sal is very involved in men's health. He's a board member of Men's Health Network.org, and he's here to talk with us a little bit about that today. But we're going to talk first a little bit about vaccines. Dr. Sal, how are you today?
I am doing splendidly well. Hopefully
awesome. It's great. Well. It's great to have you on the show. And I didn't realize that you had made so many contributions to medicine when you were up there in New York. It's kind of interesting for a pharmacologist to get into heart surgery. So, man, we're glad to have you.
Well, it was a thrilling experience. It was the early days when people were trying lots of different techniques out.
Yep.
And back in the early 70s, mid 70s. And I learned a lot, and I took care of some great patients. And it was just a wonderful way to contribute to the knowledge base of these life-saving procedures. And, it used to be that we bring people in and we put these big old chest things in their sternum to hold them together and the wires, and we keep them in the hospital for a couple of weeks post-surgery. And now, to me, it blows my mind that there are little, openings are made, incisions.
Yeah.
Laparoscopic,
Yeah, doing them with a robot and what, used to like the heart-lung machine that we used to use. They have, we used to have people put on these LVADs when we couldn't get their hearts to go. And now they have these little things, the size of my pinky, they put in through a little vein to use. So it's amazing the technology and how things have changed. One of the things that we were going to talk about today, and I guess we'll go right into this, is the globalization of administration of medications. Tell me a little bit about international price indexing and how does that affect the everyday person?
Well, there are concerns, and Men's Health Network shares the concerns about the out-of-pocket costs for medicines. We know very well from a lot of studies, and it just makes good old common sense, that the more people have to pay out of pocket for medicines, the lower the compliance. People tend to get them less regularly. And a lot of people are strapped for cash, and especially now with COVID, until the economy comes back in a couple of years, we understand that. So there have been various approaches to looking at managing the prices of medications, particularly the out-of-pocket costs. Way back when I was a student and an apprentice pharmacist, I have an apprentice license sitting somewhere, there were no pharmacy management companies. People paid out of pocket, or they were get reimbursed, and then they became reimbursed by insurance companies. And then along came these other entities along in the early 70s, I'd say, that said, look, we're going to make everything simpler for everybody. You pay us a premium, and we will manage the prescription drug benefit, and we'll take care of all of the payments for prescription drugs. And everybody in my profession and medicine said, this is great. They'll simplify everything.
Right.
But what we forgot was that these companies were there to make a dollar. And
they
that's
were tightening the noose on us all the time.
Yeah, it's okay. But if you fast forward, 60 years now, or 50 years from when these entities first started taking hold, the system's become so Byzantine, so mysterious, that the way that drug prices are set is almost like a big old black box you can't break into.
Yeah.
The other thing that's happened is along the way, these PBM companies, pharmacy benefit management companies, have convinced everybody that if you, drug company X, Y, Z, we'll do volume purchasing from you, but you have to give us rebates because we can drive your volume. And then we'll take these rebates and we'll pass them along to the consumer to reduce their out-of-pocket costs. Well, somewhere along the line, Dr. Charles, that didn't happen. The PBM companies, kept 2/3 of the rebate money and then gave back 1/3 of the rebate money. So yes, pharmaceutical drug companies did have to raise their prices to meet inflation and other regulatory challenges. But PBMs also took a huge, huge slice of that money and used that. Now they are such a lucrative business. Instead of the PBMs being an additive service to health insurance companies, the PBMs are buying health insurance companies. So they bought Aetna and United Healthcare bought one, and Omni. So you're basically paying yourself to run a prescription drug benefit.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. It's pretty sad, and they're not passing those. They're not passing those along to the patient, which is really sad.
It is.
So tell me a little bit about what do you think is the answer for that? I mean, like for example, antibiotics and other things, third-party payer. Well, what's the answer right now for prescription drugs?
Well, the key here is that the system is Byzantine. No one can figure out just what the real price of the drug is and what the real rebate section is and where the money is going. And everybody knows the Willie Sutton mentality: follow the money. So what
I guess it's the same thing with medicine. I mean, you can't go to the hospital and get a transparent price for a procedure anymore.
And the Trump administration tried to do that, and I don't think it was very successful. What has been proposed by Pelosi and some in Congress, and it was actually signed as an executive order by Trump, is to create a global market basket of drug products, so they would sample the prices of essential medicines from various countries throughout the world and say, look, the United States should never be charged more, and Medicare is the driver here, than you're charging anybody else in Brazil or Ireland or China or the Ukraine. And they're going to create an international price index. So, and that ostensibly is to bring the price of drugs down. But unfortunately, that's been tried in other industries. It's never worked. It's brought things down for a very small amount of time, but then it never really gets, once again, transmitted to the out-of-pocket cost to the consumer. We've studied this. We've looked at it, and we believe the only thing that really works is good, broad negotiating with transparent terms of volume purchasing. We do not favor rebates. We feel that it should be a straight transaction that would cut out an awful lot of administrative fees. And we think that that is the best approach to managing drug prices and keeping them where they are.
It's a big problem. It's a big problem. It's a big problem with Medicare. Medicare and prescription drugs, because, probably every patient I see, especially the elderly patients, they may have 10 to 15 medications. And, the price is just crazy. So like a lot of things in our healthcare system, it just doesn't make sense. Simple solutions don't seem to make sense.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Dr. Sal, I want to change gears because everybody has got so many questions about the COVID vaccine. Mm-hmm. And, we've had some people that have, had the COVID vaccine and had some allergic reactions. And I want you to tell us what you know about that.
Well, the allergic reactions can happen with every vaccine. Yep. In fact, the other night I was watching television and there were some ads on there for vaccines, HPV vaccine, and they warn quite clearly about allergies. So this is not something that's unique to the COVID vaccines. They are monitoring this very carefully because every incident of allergic reaction gets reported back. Yep. And my understanding is that the number, first of all, we've had, up until yesterday, I guess, we've had something like 18.5 million doses in the U.S. alone.
Wow.
There's only been one person who's died after getting the vaccine, and they don't know what that death was due to. We've had a number of people who, and it could have been causality, it could have been an underlying medical condition.
Right.
It could have been
something else.
Right, you just don't know. There have been a number of people who've had allergic reactions, not life-threatening, but in an abundance of caution, what the Food and Drug Administration and anybody who administers the vaccines, whether it's going to be given in a local pharmacy or in a hospital or your health department, they have treatments there to just reverse the allergic reaction.
Right.
It could be as simple as
just epinephrine and just an EpiPen, isn't it?
An EpiPen, exactly.
Yeah.
there was a well publicized case of an anesthesiologist who said he had a reaction and then to the vaccine. And then when they dug a little deeper, they said the guy reported, well, I have these reactions all the time. And I have my EpiPen with me, and I gave my EpiPen to myself, and I was fine. So people are asked to wait 15 minutes. You must report any allergies you have, foods, shellfish, pollen perhaps too. I don't think that's relevant. But just tell whoever's giving you the shot. And then if you have no allergies to anything, you'll probably be asked to wait. You will be asked to wait 15 minutes after the vaccination, just to make sure everything's copacetic and you're good.
That's the way they do with me. And we vaccinated about 40 people in my office one day, kind of herded them through like cattle, and nobody had any problems. We did have an EpiPen there. And so, you just need to make sure that your physician is prepared if something happens. But once again, Dr. Sal, I think what we're hearing in the media is we're hearing this fear tactic, and they talk about that one exception, and they exaggerate what happens, and then they begin to create this fear in the media. And I just want to dispel that. And I think that's what you're trying to tell folks is that, if we've had one person that's had a death or had a, severe anaphylactic reaction or whatever from the vaccine, that's very safe when you consider that over 18 million people.
Yeah, I think the incidence now is 0.0005%.
Wow.
Of allergic reactions, of anaphylactic reactions. And don't forget, this is being administered all over Europe.
Yep.
And they're ahead of us by a couple of weeks. And there are people who have gotten second doses in Europe. Now, I think somebody calculated been 250,000 second doses administered in Europe to date. So, the numbers are still very small. But you're right. One of the challenges with this whole pandemic is that we've never managed a global medical emergency in an era where we've had instantaneous communications. And anybody with a camera and a microphone, or even a little old computer, can become an instant expert.
Hey, for the Lives About Living audience, you can find Dr. Sal. He's very passionate about men's health, and he's very involved. He's on the board of Men's Health Network, and you can find more information at menshealthnetwork.org. There's a lot of resources there for men, and their goal, Dr. Sal, is to just give men resources and make them aware of men's diseases. You want to comment on that real quick before we close?
Not just make men aware, but make the women who love them, whether it's a niece, a mom, a significant other, a friend, a coworker, help them understand how to bring men to healthcare too. That's very important. So you have a lot of educational information, a lot of medical conditions that affect guys, and even some information on how women can help bring the guys they love to better healthcare.
That's good.
That's at www.menshealthnetwork.org.
menshealthnetwork.org. And thank you, Dr. Sal, for being on the show. We've had several interviews with Dr. Sal, and you can find these on our show, lifesaboutliving.show.com, or you can text LAL to 66866. Dr. Sal, it was great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome.